The council chamber stretched across 3 floors, filled with representatives from 47 different species. Today, like most days, they argued about borders, trade routes, and military spending. Scholar Nim Sara stood at the presentation platform, her 6 arms trembling with excitement as she displayed her research. "These records are over 3,000 cycles old," she said, projecting images of ancient texts onto the holographic display. They all described the same species, beings who walked on 2 legs, had no natural weapons, yet somehow survived on a death world. They called themselves humans. Counselor Vexithar, a massive Krillian with armored scales and 4 eyes, laughed from his seat. The sound rumbled through the chamber like thunder. "Not this again, scholar. These humans are stories, myths, nothing more." "But the descriptions are consistent across 12 different ancient civilizations," Nimsara insisted. "They all mention the same characteristics. Humans could bond with any creature. They felt the pain of other species as if it were their own. They fought with a determination that made no logical sense, even when victory was impossible." Another counselor, a floating gas form from the ethereal collective, spoke in musical tones. "These are fairy tales parents tell their children. Be kind like the humans. Be brave like the humans. They never existed, scholar." Nimsara's research disappeared from the display as the council voted to dismiss her presentation. She gathered her data chips with sagging shoulders and left the chamber. In the viewing gallery above, a figure watched her go with sad eyes. Jiwan looked human because she was human, though no one in this galaxy knew that. She had lived among them for 15 years, disguised as a Velocian through careful cosmetic surgery and genetic modification. She touched the communication device hidden in her collar. "Control, this is Observer 12. They still don't believe humans exist. Maintaining cover." The response crackled in her ear. "Acknowledged, Observer 12. Continue monitoring." Jiwan left the gallery and walked through the station's market district. Aliens of every shape and size traded goods, shared meals, and lived their lives. They were peaceful now, but that peace was fragile. The galaxy had known too many wars. Humanity had watched from the shadows for millennia, studying, learning, and staying hidden. They had revealed themselves once, long ago. Some species had tried to worship them, others had tried to destroy them. Both reactions had led to disaster, so Earth had vanished from galactic maps. Human colonies had hidden themselves behind advanced stealth technology. They became observers, watchers, ghosts in the machine of galactic civilization. The stories about them faded into legend, then into myth, then into tales that parents told children at bedtime. Jiwan bought fruit from a Tenthari vendor and was heading home when the alarms began. Red lights flashed throughout the station. The calm market erupted into chaos as people ran for shelter. Jiwan pressed herself against a wall and activated her hidden scanner. A priority broadcast filled every screen in the market. Counselor Vexthar's face appeared, looking grim. "Citizens of the Galactic Council, we have received a distress signal from the outer reaches. Colony 72 has gone silent. Colony 73 reports an attack by unknown forces. We are mobilizing the defense fleet immediately." Jiwan's heart raced. The outer reaches were far from council space, near the edge of explored territory. Attacks happened sometimes, usually pirates or territorial disputes. But something about this felt different. She made her way through the panicking crowd to her small apartment and activated her secure communication array. "Control, this is Observer 12. Emergency traffic. The Council is mobilizing for an attack on the outer reaches, requesting permission to investigate." The response came quickly. "Negative, Observer 12. Maintain cover. We're monitoring the situation." Over the next few days, Jiwan watched the news with growing horror. Colony 73 was destroyed. Colony 74 reported attackers that seemed to absorb their weapons and use them against the defenders. Colony 75 sent a final transmission that showed creatures that looked like they were made of living metal, moving in perfect coordination. The Council sent 3 battle fleets. Only one returned, badly damaged. The commander's report was broadcast across the galaxy. His voice shook as he spoke. They're not like anything we've faced before. They work as one mind. Every weapon we used, they adapted to it. They learned. By the time we fired our 3rd volley, they were firing the same weapons back at us. Our strongest ships were destroyed in minutes. Panic spread through Council space. Refugees began flooding in from the outer reaches, carrying stories of terror. The enemy, which they called the Collective, moved from world to world, consuming everything in their path. They didn't negotiate. They didn't communicate. They simply took. G1 attended council sessions, watching from the gallery as leaders argued about what to do. Vexthar wanted to throw every ship they had at the Collective. Others wanted to retreat and build stronger defenses. Some suggested evacuating entire sectors and creating a dead zone the Collective couldn't cross. Scholar Nimsara attended one session and tried to speak. In the old texts about humans, there are stories about how they fought impossible enemies. They didn't always use weapons. Sometimes they used understanding. Sometimes they used... Enough, Vexthar roared. Your myths won't save us, Scholar. We need real weapons. Real ships, real soldiers! That night, G1 broke protocol. She sent an unauthorized message to Earth. The galaxy is dying. An enemy is destroying everything. They adapt to all weapons. The Council has no answer. Request immediate intervention. Humanity cannot watch genocide from the shadows. Not this time. She waited 3 days for a response. When it came, it was brief. Request acknowledged. Fleet mobilizing. Prepare for contact. G1 sat in her apartment, looking out at the station where thousands of aliens lived in fear. Soon they would learn that humans were not myths. Soon the galaxy would discover that the old stories were true. She only hoped that humanity could live up to the legends. The battlefield was coming, and with it, everything would change. The refugee ships arrived in broken waves. Hundreds of vessels packed far beyond safe capacity. G1 volunteered at the processing center, helping families find shelter while she listened to their stories. Every account made her stomach tighten with dread. An elderly Kixian woman clutched G1's hand with her 3 fingers. They came from nowhere, she whispered. Our defense grid fired everything: plasma cannons, missile barrages, electromagnetic pulses. For a moment, we thought we'd won. Then the Collective ships started firing the exact same weapons back at us, but better, faster, like they'd been using them for years instead of minutes. A father from the mining colony on Voss Prime told her about watching the Collective dismantle an entire planet's worth of automated defenses. They didn't just copy our weapons, he said, his voice hollow. They improved them. Made them more efficient. Our own technology killed us. G1 filed report after report, sending everything to Earth. The response was always the same. Monitoring. Stand by. In the council chambers, the debates grew desperate. Military commanders displayed tactical maps showing the Collective's advance. Red markers swallowed system after system. Vexthar pounded his fist on the table. We throw everything at them. Every ship, every weapon. We cannot let them advance further. We already tried that, another counselor said quietly. We lost 3 fleets. The Collective is larger now than when we started fighting. They're not just taking our territory. They're taking our technology, our ships, our weapons. Every battle makes them stronger. Scholar Nimsara stood from her seat. Perhaps we're approaching this wrong. What if force isn't the answer? Then what is? Vexthar demanded. Should we negotiate with them? They don't communicate. Should we surrender? They don't take prisoners. Tell me, Scholar, what solution does your mythology offer? Nimsara had no answer. Neither did anyone else. Across the galaxy, hidden in the dark space between stars, The Earth Defense Network held an emergency council of their own. Captain Minjai stood before a holographic display showing the collective's movements. She was a tall woman with sharp eyes and graying hair tied in a tight bun. "The situation is clear," she said. "The Galactic Council is losing. At current rates, the collective will consume all council space within 2 cycles. Earth's colonies will be discovered within 4. We can no longer remain hidden. Revealing ourselves is a massive risk," Admiral Park countered. "We've stayed hidden for 3,000 years. The moment we appear, everything changes." "Everything has already changed," Minjai replied. "We're watching intelligent species face extinction. How can we call ourselves defenders of peace if we hide while genocide happens?" Su Jin, the diplomatic corps representative, activated her display. "I've prepared first contact protocols, but we need to understand what we're walking into. This won't be like the old days when we could simply appear and help. The galaxy thinks we're myths. Our arrival will cause shock, possibly fear." A younger officer named Tae Sung spoke up. "Let them fear. We have the technology to help. We have shields that can withstand collective weapons. We have compassion," Minjay interrupted. "That's our real advantage. The Council keeps trying to destroy the collective with force. We need to understand them first." Dr. Hyun Woo, the fleet's lead xenobiologist, brought up his research. "I've analyzed every report Observer 12 sent. The collective's behavior is strange. They're not acting like conquerors. They're acting like something in pain." "Pain?" Admiral Park frowned. "They're destroying entire civilizations." "Yes, but look at the pattern. They don't occupy territory. They don't extract resources. They absorb technology and move on, getting faster and more desperate each time. This isn't conquest. This is something else." Minjai studied the data. "Like they're searching for something." "Or running from something," Hyunwoo suggested. The council debated for hours. Finally, Admiral Park called for a vote. "All in favor of breaking our silence and offering assistance to the Galactic Council." Every hand rose. "Then we proceed. Captain Minjay, prepare the 3rd Fleet. Sujin, ready your diplomatic team. Dr. Hyunwoo, I want full analysis capabilities. We're going to war, but not the war the galaxy expects." Back on the council station, Ji-won received a coded message. Her hands shook as she read it. "Contact in 48 hours. Prepare them." She found Scholar Nimsara in the archives, surrounded by old texts. The scholar looked exhausted. "I thought I could find something useful in the old stories," Nimsara said. "Some clue about how the ancient peoples survived their wars. But they're just stories." Ji-won sat beside her. "What if they weren't stories? What if humans really existed?" Nimsara gave a tired laugh. "Then where are they? If they were real, why haven't they helped us? What if they were waiting? Waiting for what?" "For the galaxy to need them," Ji-won said carefully. "Not as gods, not as conquerors, just as equals." Nimsara looked at her strangely. "You sound like you believe in them." "Maybe I do." The next day, another refugee fleet arrived. Among them was a small transport carrying survivors from a research station. A young alien child named Peltik stumbled off the ship, looking lost and terrified. Ji-won helped the child to the medical bay. "The collective came," Peltik whispered. "But something was different. When they got close, I heard them. In my head. They were screaming." Ji-won froze. "Screaming? What were they saying?" "Not words. Just pain. So much pain. Like millions of voices crying all at once." Ji-won sent this information to Earth immediately. The response came within minutes. "Critical intelligence. Collective may be hive mind in distress. Changing approach. Contact in 24 hours. That night, Ji-won stood at the observation window, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, human ships were moving toward council space. Soon, the myths would become real. Soon, the galaxy would learn that humanity's greatest strength was never their weapons or their technology. It was their refusal to stop caring, even for strangers. Even for a galaxy that had forgotten they existed. The battlefield was approaching, but it wouldn't be the battlefield the galaxy expected. The battle at Corvus Prime was already lost when the human fleet arrived. Council ships burned in the void, their crews sending desperate evacuation signals. The Collective had surrounded the planet, their dark vessels moving in perfect coordination. Every defensive weapon the Council fired was absorbed, analyzed, and returned with devastating accuracy. Then space itself seemed to ripple. 30 ships appeared from nowhere, materializing in formation between the dying Council fleet and the Collective advance. They were sleek and strange, designed in ways that made no tactical sense to anyone watching. The hull patterns were smooth where they should be angular, curved where they should be reinforced. On the Council flagship, alarms screamed. Commander Thexlar stared at his scanners. "What are those ships? They're not in any database. Where did they come from?" His tactical officer's voice shook. "Sir, they're hailing us. Audio only. The language is old, very old. It matches the ancient texts in the archives." "Put it through." A woman's voice filled the bridge, speaking in perfectly accented galactic standard. "Council forces, this is Captain Minjay of the Earth Defense Fleet. We're here to help. Please stand down your weapons and prepare for evacuation." Silence fell across the bridge. Thexlar found his voice. "Earth? That's impossible. Earth is a myth. Humans are myths." "We're very real, Commander, and right now, your ship has a hull breach on Deck 7 and life support failing on Decks 3 through 5. We're sending rescue shuttles. Please don't shoot at them." Before Thexlar could respond, smaller craft launched from the human ships. They moved through the battlefield with impossible precision, dodging debris and collective fire. But they weren't firing weapons. They were pulling survivors from damaged ships, cutting through twisted metal to reach trapped crew members. Across the galaxy, every news feed carried the same images. Humans. Real humans. They looked exactly like the ancient descriptions. 2 arms, 2 legs, soft skin with no natural armor. They should have been fragile. Instead, they moved through the chaos of battle like they belonged there. Vexthar watched from the council chambers, his 4 eyes wide. "This cannot be real." Scholar Nimsara stood beside him, tears running down her face. "They're real. They're actually real." The human ships began pulling back, creating a protective screen around the rescued council forces. The Collective pressed forward, weapons charging. Every viewer across the galaxy expected the humans to fire back, to show some devastating weapon that would turn the tide. Instead, Captain Minjay's voice broadcast on all frequencies. "Collective forces, we are not your enemy. We are not here to fight you. We want to understand you. Please, give us a chance to communicate." The Collective's response was immediate. Every ship fired at once. Energy weapons, kinetic rounds, and missiles filled the space where the human fleet floated. The galaxy watched, certain they were about to witness the destruction of their mythical saviors. The human shields absorbed everything, not by reflecting or deflecting, but by simply taking the damage and holding. The ships rocked but did not break. Their shields shimmered like water, rippling with each impact, but never failing. "Collective forces," Minjay said again, her voice calm. "We can do this all day, or you can talk to us. We know you're in pain. We can hear it. We want to help." The Collective stopped firing. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, for the first time in the entire war, they retreated. Their ships pulled back into a defensive formation and went still. Within hours, Captain Minjay stood in the council chambers. She wore a simple uniform with no weapons visible. She was shorter than most of the counselors, her skin tanned, her dark hair streaked with gray. She looked ordinary, human. You're really from Earth, Vexthar said. It wasn't a question. Yes, Counselor. We've been watching the galaxy for 3,000 years. We stayed hidden because the last time we revealed ourselves, it ended badly. Some of you tried to worship us. Others tried to destroy us. We just wanted to be equals. Then why reveal yourselves now? Another counselor demanded. Minjae's expression hardened. Because we couldn't watch genocide from the shadows. Because our principles matter more than our safety. Because that's what humans do. We help, even when it costs us everything. Su Jin, the human diplomat, stepped forward. We've been analyzing the collective. We believe they're not trying to conquer you. They're suffering. Every attack is a cry for help that you've been answering with violence. They destroyed 17 colonies, Vexthar roared. We know, and we grieve for those losses, but adding more destruction won't bring them back. We need to understand what the collective is and what they need. Dr. Hyun-woo activated a holographic display. We've studied every encounter. The collective moves like a hive mind, but something is wrong with their coordination. They're too aggressive, too desperate. Hive minds should be efficient and calm. This one is frantic. What does that mean? Thexelar asked. He had arrived an hour earlier, his ship saved by human rescue teams. It means they're broken, Hyun-woo said. Imagine being trapped in a room with millions of people all screaming and you can never leave. You can never find quiet. You can never find peace. You'd do anything to make it stop. Minjae turned to the council. We want to bring in one of the refugees, a child named Peltic, who claims to have heard the collective's thoughts. We believe this child might be sensitive in ways others aren't. We want to use that sensitivity to establish communication. Vexthar stood. You want to bring a child into contact with the enemy? That's madness. That's compassion, Minjae corrected. Peltic volunteered. The child wants to help, and we'll be there to protect them every step of the way. The council erupted into arguments. Some supported the human plan, others called it insane. But Ji-won, watching from the gallery, saw something she'd never seen before. The council was actually listening to humans. Not as myths, not as gods, as equals. Scholar Nimsara approached Minjae after the session. I spent my whole life studying your species. I was right about everything, wasn't I? You do bond with other creatures. You do feel others' pain. Minjae smiled sadly. We're not special, Scholar. We're just people who decided a long time ago that strength without compassion is just cruelty. Any species can make that choice. But you made it first. No, Minjae said, looking at the diverse crowd of aliens around them. We just made it loudly. Many species in this galaxy already practice compassion. They just didn't know others were watching and learning from them too. That night, preparations began. Peltic was brought to the human flagship, where Dr. Hyun-woo's team worked through the night, preparing the child for contact. Ji-won finally revealed her true identity to the council, explaining her years of observation. Captain Minjae stood on her bridge, looking at the distant collective fleet. They hadn't moved since the battle. They were waiting. Maybe they were hoping. Maybe, for the first time in their broken existence, they thought someone might actually understand. All teams, this is Captain Minjae. Tomorrow we make contact, not with weapons, with open hands and open hearts, show the galaxy what humanity really means. The myths had stepped onto the battlefield. Now they had to prove they were more than legends. Peltic sat in the medical bay, small hands gripping the edge of the examination table. The child looked up at Dr. Hyun-woo with wide, frightened eyes. What if I can't do it? What if I hear them again and it hurts too much? Hyun-woo knelt down to eye level. Then we stop immediately. Peltic, you're the bravest person I know, but you don't have to do this if you're scared. I am scared, Peltic whispered. But I'm also angry. The collective killed my family. If I can help stop them from killing more families, I have to try. Captain Minjai entered the bay. We've located a collective node ship. It's damaged, separated from the main fleet. If we're going to make contact, that's our best chance. Will it be dangerous? Peltic asked. Minjay didn't lie. Yes, very dangerous. But every human on this ship will protect you. We promise. The human fleet moved slowly toward the damaged collective ship. Council forces watched from a distance, weapons ready despite human requests to stand down. On every planet in Council space, billions watched the live feeds, holding their breath. The collective node was a twisted mass of metal and organic material, pulsing with strange energy. It looked like a wounded animal, dangerous even in its pain. The human shuttle approached carefully, Minjay piloting while Hyunwoo monitored Peltic's vital signs. I can hear them, Peltic said suddenly. Voices. So many voices. They're saying the same thing over and over. Make it stop. Make it stop. Make it stop. What do they want to stop? Hyunwoo asked gently. The noise, the connection. They can't separate. They're all stuck together and they hate it, but they can't stop. They've been this way for so long they forgot how to be alone. Hyunwoo's hands flew across his scanner. That's it. The collective isn't a natural hive mind. Something forced them together. A plague, maybe, or a weapon. They merged to survive but lost the ability to separate. The shuttle docked with the node. Minjai and her security team went first, weapons holstered but ready. Inside, the walls pulsed with bioluminescent patterns. Organic cables ran across every surface. At the center of the chamber, a cluster of beings floated in suspension. Their bodies merged together into a single mass. Peltic stepped forward, then stopped. They see us. They're scared. They think we came to hurt them. Tell them we came to help, Minjay said. I don't know how. Jiwon, who had joined the mission, knelt beside the child. Just think it. Think peaceful thoughts. Think about wanting to help. In our research, we found that the collective responds to emotions as much as words. Peltic closed their eyes. The chamber went quiet. Then the merged beings in the center began to glow brighter. Images flashed through everyone's minds. A world, beautiful and green. People living separately, happily. Then sickness, death spreading. Scientists working desperately. A solution that saved them but trapped them. They didn't want this, Peltic said, crying. They just wanted to survive. But the cure was worse than the disease. Now they're all trapped together, feeling everyone's fear, everyone's pain, everyone's anger, all at once for thousands of years. They attack other species because they're trying to find something, anything, that will make the noise stop. Hyunwoo worked frantically on his equipment. We need to find a way to create separation within their network. Let them stay connected if they want, but give them the ability to have their own thoughts again. That's impossible, one of the security officers said. You can't rewire an entire species' consciousness. Actually, Jiwon said quietly, humans do it all the time. We call it meditation. We practice being alone with our thoughts, even in crowded places. We learn to create quiet spaces in our minds. Hyunwoo stared at her. That's brilliant. We don't need to separate them physically. We need to teach them mental separation, the ability to have individual space within the collective. How do we teach that? Minjay asked. Jiwon took a deep breath. I volunteer. Let me connect to their network directly. I can show them what individual thought feels like while still being part of a whole. Absolutely not, Minjay said immediately. We don't know what that would do to you. I know the risks. But think about it, Captain. Humans are social creatures. We understand being connected to others while maintaining our individuality. We're the perfect teachers for this. The argument was interrupted by alarms. The main collective fleet was approaching. Council forces moved to intercept, against Minjai's orders. Vexathar's voice came over the communication channel. Humans, you have 10 minutes. Then we're destroying that node and everything connected to it. You'll kill millions, Hyunwoo shouted. They've killed millions of us. 10 minutes. Min-jae looked at Ji-won. Are you sure about this? No. But I'm doing it anyway. That's what humans do, right? Hyunwoo attached neural sensors to Ji-won's head and connected them to the collective node. I'm programming in our meditation exercises, deep breathing patterns, mindfulness techniques, everything we use to find calm in chaos. Ji-won lay down on the shuttle floor. Peltic held her hand. I'll be here. If it gets too scary, follow my voice back. Ready? Hyunwoo asked. Ready. He activated the connection. Ji-won's mind exploded with sensation. Millions of voices screamed at once. Millions of memories crashed through her consciousness. Fear, pain, anger, loneliness, all of it mixed together until she couldn't tell where one thought ended and another began. She was drowning in other people's minds. Then she remembered to breathe. In, out, in, out. Focus on the breath. Nothing else matters, just the breath. A small space of quiet opened in the chaos. Just enough room for one thought, one awareness, one self. The collective felt it, the impossibility of it, the beautiful, terrible loneliness of being just one person in the vastness of connection. Ji-won pushed the meditation techniques outward, sharing them like gifts. This is how you find yourself. This is how you create space. This is how you rest. The core fragment found her in the noise. The original minds, the first ones who had merged, trapped and screaming for millennia. They reached for the quiet space she'd created like drowning people reaching for air. Ji-won showed them peace, not through words but through experience. She shared memories of sitting alone and content, of choosing to connect with others instead of being forced to, of the joy of solitude and the joy of company, both available, both valid. The core fragment understood, and they began to teach the others. Outside, the collective fleet stopped advancing. Their ships hung motionless in space as millions of minds learned, for the first time in thousands of years, how to be alone together. Min-jae counted the seconds. 5 minutes left. 4, 3. Then the collective node began to change. The merged beings in the center started to separate, just slightly, still connected, but with space between them. Individual thoughts flickering like candles in the darkness. Ji-won opened her eyes. They understand. They're teaching each other, but it will take time. Time we don't have, Min-jae said, hearing weapons charging on the council ships. Peltic stood up, voice suddenly strong. Then we make time. Tell the council that the collective is changing. Tell them that violence ends now. Tell them that's what humans demand. Min-jae smiled and opened a channel to Vexathar. Counselor, the collective is standing down. They're learning to heal themselves. If you attack now, you're not defending anyone. You're just choosing revenge over peace. The galaxy held its breath and waited for his answer. Vexathar stood on his command bridge, weapon systems fully charged. His targeting officer waited for the order to fire. 17 colonies destroyed, millions dead. The enemy was vulnerable, separated from their fleet, exposed. Justice was one word away. He looked at the display showing Ji-won lying unconscious in the shuttle, Peltic holding her hand, human soldiers protecting them both. He thought about what Min-jae had said. Violence ends now. Power down weapons, he said quietly. His crew stared at him. Sir? I said power down weapons. The humans are right. This ends now. He opened a channel to the entire council fleet. All ships, stand down. We will give the collective time to change. If they attack, we defend. But we will not fire first. The humans have shown us a different way. Let's see if it works. Scholar Nimsara, watching from the council station, began to cry. Across the galaxy, billions watched in stunned silence as the largest military fleet in council history simply stopped and waited. Inside the collective node, Ji-Wan's consciousness floated in the strange space between her mind and millions of others. The core fragment communicated with her, not in words, but in feelings and images. They showed her their world before the plague. Artists and scientists, families and friends, all living separate but connected lives. They showed her the desperation of the dying, the hope when the cure was found, the horror when they realized what they'd become. For 3,000 years, they had been trapped in collective agony, unable to die, unable to separate, unable to find peace. Every species they encountered, they hoped would have the answer. When those species fought back with weapons, the collective absorbed the technology, hoping it would be the key to freedom. But weapons only made them stronger, more capable of destruction, never more capable of peace. Until now. Ji-Wan felt the core fragment, taking the meditation techniques and spreading them through the collective network. Millions of minds learned to create small spaces of quiet. It wasn't perfect. It would take time. But for the first time in millennia, individual collective members could have their own thoughts without drowning in everyone else's. The relief was overwhelming. Collective ships across the galaxy stopped their attacks mid-battle. Soldiers who had been fighting one moment sat down and simply breathed the next, experiencing the miracle of being alone in their own heads. Ji-Wan woke in the medical bay of Min-Jae's flagship 3 days later. Her head pounded and her body felt like it weighed 1,000 kilograms. Hyun-Woo sat beside her bed, monitoring her vital signs. "How long was I out?" she asked. 72 hours. You gave us quite a scare." He smiled. "But it worked. The collective is changing. They're separating into smaller voluntary hive groups, hundreds instead of billions. Each group small enough that members can maintain individuality while still benefiting from connection." "And the council?" "Vexthar held the fleet back. No shots fired. There's going to be a formal gathering. The collective wants to send representatives. They want to apologize." Ji-Wan sat up slowly. "They don't need to apologize. They were suffering." "Try telling that to the families of the dead," Hyun-Woo said gently. "Forgiveness takes time." "But at least now we have time to work with." The formal gathering was held on a neutral station at the border of council space. Representatives from every council species attended. Captain Min-Jae led the human delegation, with Ji-Wan, Soo-Jin, and Hyun-Woo at her side. Peltic insisted on coming too, standing straight and proud despite being the smallest being in the room. The collective representatives arrived in a small ship. When they emerged, the room went silent. They looked like the merged beings from the node, but different, separated. 3 individuals standing close together but distinctly individual. The lead representative spoke in a soft, multi-toned voice. "We are Fragment Group 7. We speak for the collective, but we do not speak as the collective. We are learning the difference." The being paused. "We have caused terrible harm. We destroyed colonies. We killed millions. We were in pain. But pain does not excuse our actions. We offer no defense. We ask only for the chance to make amends." Vexthar stood. "How can you make amends for genocide?" "We cannot," the collective representative said simply. "No action can undo what we did, but we can help rebuild. Our technology, freely shared. Our labor, freely given. Our knowledge, freely taught. We can spend the rest of our existence trying to heal what we broke." Another counselor stood. "How do we know you won't attack again?" "You don't," the representative admitted. "Trust must be earned. We understand this. We will submit to monitoring. We will accept restrictions, whatever the council requires to feel safe." Min-Jae stood. "Or we could try something radical. We could choose to believe that people can change, that suffering can end, that enemies can become allies." "Easy for you to say," Vexthar growled. Humans weren't the ones who lost colonies. No, Min-jae agreed. But we know what it's like to be dismissed as myths, feared as threats, misunderstood for millennia. We know what it's like to be alone. The collective was alone too, just in a different way, alone together, unable to escape each other or themselves. Scholar Nimsara approached the collective representatives. I studied humans my whole life. I was laughed at, dismissed, told I was chasing fairy tales. But I kept searching because I believed that understanding others was worth the effort. Will you teach me about your people? Will you let me document your transformation? The collective being reached out, hesitantly touching Nimsara's hand. Yes, we will teach you, and we will learn from you. Learning is what we should have done from the beginning. The gathering lasted for days. Agreements were drafted. Reparations were discussed. Monitoring systems were designed. It wasn't perfect. Many representatives wanted harsher terms. Some wanted the collective exiled or destroyed. But slowly, painfully, a framework for peace emerged. On the final day, they erected a memorial, a massive structure visible from every part of the station, listing the names of every being lost to the war. Humans, council species, and collective members worked together to build it. At its base, they placed an inscription that Min-jae had written. Strength is not the absence of weakness. It is the courage to understand, to feel, and to choose mercy when destruction would be easier. Here lie the victims of our failure to understand each other. May we honor them by doing better. Vexthar stood before the memorial, reading the names of his people. Min-jae stood beside him. Your species saved the galaxy, he said. You appeared from myth and showed us a better way. We didn't save anything, Min-jae replied. We just reminded everyone of what they already knew. That compassion is stronger than weapons. That understanding prevents more wars than any defense fleet. Every species in this galaxy has that capacity. They just needed permission to use it. Will you stay? Vexithar asked. Now that you've revealed yourselves? Min-jae looked at the crowd. Humans talking with collective beings. Peltic explaining human meditation techniques to a group of fascinated scholars. Ji-won laughing with aliens who, days ago, hadn't known humans existed. Su-jin negotiating cultural exchange programs. Hyun-woo teaching xenobiology to species who wanted to understand each other better. Yes, she said, we'll stay. Not as saviors, not as myths, just as people trying to help. That's all we ever wanted to be. Across the galaxy, on Hidden Earth, the Defense Network watched the celebrations. Humanity had revealed itself and the sky had not fallen. The galaxy had not tried to worship them or destroy them. Instead, they had simply accepted humans as equals, as partners, as friends. In schools on 100 worlds, children learned new stories, not myths about impossible heroes, but true stories about ordinary people who chose compassion over fear, who stepped onto the battlefield not with weapons, but with open hands and the courage to understand their enemies. The collective began their long work of healing. Split into smaller groups, they used their vast knowledge to help rebuild what they had destroyed. They were not forgiven by everyone. Some species would never forgive them, but they were given a chance to change, to grow, to become something better than what pain had made them. Peltic stayed with the human fleet, learning and teaching in equal measure. The child who had heard the collective's pain became a bridge between species, helping others develop the same empathy. Ji-won returned to Earth for the first time in 15 years, walking on her home world under an open sky. She carried messages from 100 species, all wanting to learn more about humanity, all wanting to know if the other myths were true too. And in the council chambers, where scholar Nimsara had once been laughed at for believing in humans, a new department was established, the Office of Understanding, dedicated to studying species not as threats or resources, but as complex beings worthy of compassion and respect. Nimsara led it, and her first act was to begin documenting every myth, every legend, every story the galaxy had ever told. Because maybe, just maybe, they were all true in the ways that mattered most.